So let's talk about Transformers The Last Night. So I guess what happened was Michael Bay, who's directed all the Transformers movies up until this one, including this one. I guess the big complaint with Transformers 4, The Age of Extinction, was that it was very boring. That's the big complaint, and I agree with that. The movie was very boring, and I guess Michael Bay took that into account because with Transformers The Last Night, this movie, I mean, I'm having a hard time saying what I need to say here, but this movie was literally a 6-hour movie crammed into 3 hours. That's how we're going to start the review. All right, so Transformers The Last Night, this was not a good movie. This was not a good movie. I did not like this movie. Now, does that mean that I hated everything about the film? No. But it's funny because with the Transformers movies, it's been like the reverse Star Trek formula where the even ones are the bad ones, like 2 and 4, and the decent ones are 1 and 3. And I would agree with that. I think that 1 and 3 are fun movies. 1's my favorite. 2, everybody hated it. I didn't like it too much, but I didn't really hate it that much. This movie, Transformers The Last Night, is a really, really bad movie. But like I said, that doesn't mean that there aren't good things about it. Now, I'm not going to go into spoilers at the moment. I'm going to talk more about spoilers later in this video, and I will give you a warning before I go into the spoilers, okay? I will give you a warning so you can click off. But this film, Michael Bay's Transformers 5, is one of the most poorly directed, poorly edited, poorly written, and poorly paced movies I've ever seen, especially from like a big budget, Paramount Pictures, kind of thing. Michael Bay is known to be popcorn action, to the extreme. And the thing about me is I do think that there is a market for these kind of movies. I like sometimes watching popcorn films. I love a lot of Michael Bay movies. I like Bad Boys. I like The Rock. I even like Armageddon. This was just not a good movie. This was this was like a filmmaker who's been very successful, made a lot of money, showing people that either he doesn't know how to tell a story, he doesn't know how to make a good movie, he forgot how to make a good movie, even though he hasn't made that many good ones. And it just, all due respect to Michael Bay, because I don't dislike the dude, a lot of film fans do, but this was maybe his worst film. I mean, it really, really was. I can't think of a movie this bad. So, the good things about the movie, okay? The robot battles, while there were few and far between, just like the problem with a lot of the other ones, were cool for the most part. John Goodman's character was great. Peter Cullen and Frank Welker reprised their roles from the original Transformers and some of the previous films, even though Frank Welker is new to the series, as Megatron and Optimus Prime. And Optimus Prime and Megatron, voice-wise, are amazing. Peter Cullen, you cannot deny that Peter Cullen is amazing at what he does. But, man, beyond that, I guess the third act, the end of the movie, was pretty epic and grandiose. It's probably the most epic finale to any Transformers movie we've seen so far, without question. And we've seen these movies where cities get blown up in pretty much every rendition. But this one was like a step beyond. It wasn't a city blowing up, but it was, let's just say, very similar to Turtles 2. If you saw Turtles 2, Out of the Shadows, and the finale, this was really, really similar to it. This movie was a complete jarbled mess. This movie, so you're watching this movie, right? And you literally, and I'm focused on this film as I'm watching it, and there are so many times while I was watching this movie where I legit lost track of what was going on, because this dude, Michael Bay, literally tries to cram a 6-hour movie into 3 hours. Jump cut, jump cut, jump cut. We go to Cuba, we go to Europe, we go to Asia, it's a boom, 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 boom. The movie just hits you over the head with all this stuff. Like, literally the entire first 2 acts are info dump after info dump, and he never gives the characters time to develop, to breathe. This movie suffers from, I don't want to call it ADD syndrome, but it really is. I feel like you have to be on some type of drug to really figure out what the heck's going on. You almost have to watch it in slow-mo. Things happen with no explanation, and when things happen that do get explained, they're explained very poorly. Characters appear, and we're supposed to care about them, but they don't get enough time for us to really care about them. The new characters, there's literally tons of new characters in this movie. Tons. I would say 4 or 5 new main characters, and a few old ones, of course. And the new characters, like, I just don't care. I found myself not caring about these characters at all, and they never gave us a reason to care. And just like with previous movies, they focus way too much on the human characters. Now, there's this whole backstory. We find out this, again, no spoilers, we find out this gigantic backstory about the Transformers and their history on Earth involving King Arthur. That was in the trailers and whatnot. So in this movie, they legitimize the King Arthur fairy tale and talk about how, well, it's a fairy tale, but it actually happened. And they explain that magic is technology, sort of like what Thor did. And I was fine with all that. And they go back to the past. And, of course, if you remember the end of Transformers 4, Optimus is floating around in space looking for the creator. That's, of course, addressed in this movie. He finds the creator. And, of course, the creator is not what he was expecting. But the thing about the movie was the main draw with these movies is Optimus Prime. And the main draw is the fights. Like, that's what I think a lot of people want to see, is just badass robot action. Most people just don't care about the human characters. If you're one of those people that wants badass, robot action, wait for Redbox, fast forward to the end of the movie, and just have fun. There's virtually none in this movie. And when it comes to the humans, I mean, at least give us an interesting storyline. There's none. I mean, there's just... When you're watching this movie, you can sense, you can literally feel that Mark Wahlberg and Anthony Hopkins do not give a damn. They don't care. Mark Wahlberg is in this movie. He's a very important part of this movie because that's kind of what he is. He's sort of the main human character like he was in the last one. But in this movie, he's even more important. And when you find out how important he is, it is so contrived and so like, oh, we should have known the entire time. Or, oh, what a coincidence that guy's friends with Optimus Prime. And Anthony Hopkins plays what's called the exposition character. In all these movies, there's one character who knows everything, who teaches you everything. You had Obi-Wan in Star Wars, Gandalf, of course, in Lord of the Rings. You've got the one character who tells the main character what's going on. That's pretty much all the films have this. But he just doesn't care. He phones it in this movie. One of the great all-time legendary actors just phones it in. Now, one problem with the Transformers movies that they all kind of have is that there's always a weird thing with tone. Like, you've got tone where you've got a very serious moment, or you've got a character saying something very, very serious about their past, or giving an inspirational speech. And then right afterward, it's a joke. Right afterward, they tell a joke. And I understand how these movies have to have the one-liners. I'm a huge fan of Die Hard, Bruce Willis. I'm a huge fan of Arnold movies. I get it. You want to do something badass with a one-liner. Here, it's constant. And the problem is that all the jokes fall flat. So I watched this movie at an early screening, and there was a row of kids in front of me, and not a single one. First of all, 2 of the kids fell asleep, and then the other 3 did not say a word. Like, there was literally 2 laughs in the entire movie. When you got little kids who brought Transformers toys with them to the theater, when they're bored, you know you've made a stinker. This movie sucks. And I know some people will say that 4 is, better. I don't think so. I actually believe that 4 is worse. I think this is the worst Transformers movie. I really, truly believe that. And if you disagree with me, it's cool. Because at this point, it's a toss-up. But this movie, without question, was worse than 2. And not only was it worse than 2, it was very similar to 2, except it did more stuff. And it was the shortest one. It was 2.5 hours. I rounded up to 3 earlier in the review. But they're all pretty much 3 hours. I mean, that's how it feels. With trailers and whatnot, it's a 3-hour movie. Still very long. But this is like a faster-paced, more scrambled up, jumbled up version of 2. There's subplots that go nowhere. There's characters that appear and we never hear from them again until the very end. Characters appear in places they shouldn't be. Characters know stuff. They just know. Like, there's this one character in the movie who's like a scientist. He's kind of like a takeoff of, I guess, Jeff Goldblum's character in Independence Day, and he's so freaking annoying. Like, he's one of the most annoying characters I've ever seen in these kind of movies, and he's constantly being thrown at us, like, over and over again. When something fails, they cut to him. Then let's do this. He fails again, they cut to him. And we don't know anything about this guy at all. He just happens to just know stuff. He just knows. At least with Anthony Hopkins, how he knows stuff. He's been, doing research. They explain that. This dude, this scientist guy just knows that there's a catastrophe coming. And speaking of Independence Day, boy, was this movie... Dude, this movie, if you are one of those film fans who doesn't like Roland Emmerich movies, like Independence Day, for example, The Day After Tomorrow, 2012, those end of the world movies, I feel like Michael Bay must have watched like 10 of them, dude, because this was not a Transformers movie. This was a Roland Emmerich disaster movie disguised as a Transformers movie. There's too much emphasis on the humans. They keep showing stuff that people don't care about. There's very little robots in the film. There's a big cataclysm near the end of the film that they have to stop to save the Earth again, because all these movies have the same plot line. There's a cataclysm coming, and there's a secret weapon on Earth they have to find. It's the same thing. There's always a secret weapon somewhere. And it's like, I get it, but could you not pick some other plots from the TV show? There's so many episodes of Transformers, the sequel series, they could take ideas from. Like, it's the same MacGuffin story over and over again. Now, the big sell of this movie was Optimus Prime going heel. Optimus Prime is a bad guy. Just like what they did with Fast and the Furious 8. Like, oh man, our favorite hero's a villain now. What are we gonna do? He's the biggest badass of all the Autobots. Yeah, he goes villainous in a really stupid, just un-Optimus Prime way. And then when he goes back to being good, the reason for him going good was so cringy. Like, I'm sitting there pulling my hair out at this, man. Like, I'm just watching it like, that's it? That was the story? Like, if you watch Fast and the Furious 8, you know that Vin Diesel is a villain for most of this film. That's not the case here, because guess what? Optimus Prime, the guy who everybody paid a ticket to see kick ass, sits out the majority of this movie. The first 2 acts are virtually void of this guy. One scene, another scene, then we don't see him again till the very end. And then when he finally realizes the error of his ways, it comes out of nowhere. Oh, this was bad. And the villain, the main villain, not Megatron, the other villain I'm not going to get into, what a waste. And also, there were pieces of the Transformers lore that they used in this film that they kind of screwed up, okay? Hot Rod, not really a spoiler. Hot Rod's in this movie. If you watch the 84 Transformers, you know who that is. And then, of course, there's another big piece of the Transformers 84 movie that is in this film. And it's like somewhat backwards, but yet near the end of the film, there's like a semi-cliffhanger for another one. Like, I was confused, man. I'm watching this movie and I'm trying my damnedest to pay attention. I'm talking to my friend and we're trying to figure this out. And we're left there scratching our heads like, okay, why did that happen? How did that happen? What does this mean? And how does this relate to that? It was bad, dude. This was a bad movie. I mean, really bad. And when I say bad, I mean like bad by Michael Bay standards. Like, I think he can do better. He's a great director when it comes to doing large set pieces, big war scenes, cities getting blown up. And we see that in this movie, but a lot of it just came off boring. It's weird because it's not as boring as 4, but because there's so much going on and your brain is literally trying to keep up with what's going on, it kind of became boring. Like, and I'm not an idiot. I'm not stupid. I watch movies. I get deep subplots and things like that. Some of my favorite films of all time are some of the more sophisticated films in film history. And this is the opposite of that. Like, this is like, we're going to throw a lot of stuff at you. And if you get it, great. And if you don't, well, too bad. Just check out these robots. But they don't even give you enough robots to make it worth it. Damn it. Okay, so spoilers. We're going to go into a few spoilers here. You've been warned now. Click off the video if you don't want any spoilers. If you don't care, fuck it. So, Unicron is in the movie. We've been waiting for Unicron forever. Unicron's the Earth. Lame. Like, that's not the Unicron that I want. And Quintessa as the villain, I don't know, dude. Like, and I guess she somehow survived, and the teaser for the next movie, obviously Megatron survived. It was just whatever. Dude, Bumblebee learning how to talk out of nowhere. What the fuck was that? Like, I'm just watching this like, how and why? And Optimus Prime was a villain for 10 freaking minutes. He comes in there, he fights the old knight, he fights Bumblebee, and then suddenly he's a good guy again out of nowhere. So it was like clickbait. Like they wanted you to go see the movie to see them fight Optimus Prime. There was 1.5 fights. And then all of a sudden, oh, Bumblebee. Oh, I screwed up. Oh, I can't believe I let her control me. Oh. Like, it's like the same, like, thing, like, that we always see from this cliche bullshit. The problem is there are so many other Transformer storylines that they could have used. They could have even done Unicron right. And they might do it right in the next one. Because it seems like a totally different, story, but they have an idea for the next one, maybe. I have no idea. I really don't. I was left scratching my head throughout this whole movie. Also, what about Cogman? Was Cogman not a complete ripoff of freaking K2SO? I mean, I feel like Michael Bay saw the trailers or whatever, because obviously the movie was close to being done. I think it was done before, the Rogue One came out. I feel like maybe he saw the trailers and was like, I want to have a British, wisecracking robot in my movie. And I liked the character. I actually really did like the Butler character. I did like Cogman, but it was such an obvious rip. Like, I didn't like this movie at all. I thought it could have been so much better. The finale was whatever. Like, they jobbed out the villain like nothing. The villains were made to look terrible. Like, Megatron got beat with like a kick. Freaking Optimus Prime cut off 5 dudes' heads at once, man. What the hell? He's worse than Triple H. And then Quintessa gets beaten like a jabroni. They built her up having all these abilities and powers and whatnot. She's a sorceress or whatever. She's the creator or whatever. And she ends up getting jobbed to Bumblebee. What the hell, dude? And also, we got screwed out of the Dinobots. Like, Grimlock has a couple cool scenes early in the movie, but he doesn't even appear in the finale. Now, one thing that was cool, though, that I loved, was the giant dragon. The big giant dragon that was composed of all the knights. That was a fantastic Transformer. I want that toy, like, tomorrow. See what I'm saying? I want it. But overall, didn't like the movie. If you liked it, it's okay. It's just my silly opinion. I think it could have been done better. Let me know what you think in the comments about this film. And I don't even know what to tell you, folks. It's just not a very good film. Not a very good film, and I hope the next one's better. I heard they're going to change directors. They got to slow it down a little bit and tell... if they're going to focus on humans, tell a more humanistic story. Don't just sit there and freaking... What about the Spanish girl, bro? Like, they had that whole subplot with the little Spanish girl, Isabella, and she did nothing. Like, she appeared in the end to do nothing. Like, it's wasted characters. Just bad filmmaking all around this movie. Hopefully the next one will be better. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching my long review of Transformers, my rant. I guess we'll talk later. Fuck!